call our meeting to order. Miss Margie, your roll call.
All's present.
All's present. And budget amendments for FY 24 and 25. Miss Heather, you want to talk to us about that?
Yes, sir. We just have two here tonight. The first one is we had to use up the remaining opiate abatement state money that was in the year one of payment. We're already on year 3, so there was $10,813 left. The opiate abatement committee met, and this is their recommendation that $8,000 go towards the Camp Kids, which there had been a prior contribution to that, and then the remaining $2813 will be used for corrective advertising for public education. That the mayor's office will do something along the lines of t-shirts or something along those lines. And then the second one, this is fire prevention and control. This is an additional contribution. It is a specific contribution to the Stewart County Fire Rescue Services for capital improvements and repair needs. There's been a lot of capital needs. When we met last year with the charitable contribution, or nonprofit committee, I'm sorry, they had said that we would address if there was something that came in mid-year, so the fire rescue was bringing this to us, asking us if we can go ahead and provide them with some of the needs for the capital improvements, and we can take the money from investment income if it's approved as a revenue source.
Anybody have any questions on those?
Now, when is this?
These are current fiscal year,
Current.
so before June we would do, yes sir.
So they're asking for an additional,
Correct.
okay.
They had some roofs on 2 of the fire departments that are, one of them's really bad and the other one's fixing to need it. And a couple of doors, the big doors, they had a problem with that. They had, Bear Springs is holding water, taking water in, they gotta fix it.
That's over there by Mark.
Your station is also, your station's also in that included.
They've been working on that for a couple of years.
Included in that too.
So this will be just a contribution, this won't be, it won't be like the county actually doing the work, because the buildings don't belong to the county.
Correct.
Right.
We're just going to contribute the money.
Okay.
Yes.
Just funding the work.
Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
And a second? Okay, any more questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like that. And we'll move on.
The next on the, we're getting into the budget year for fiscal 25-26, the main reason for tonight's meeting. So I'll just start with a couple things on the agenda, and then we'll move into the actual budgets with the school system starting first. But on page 2, show you this every year. This is the statement of estimated revenues from current property taxes for calendar year 2025. As you know, last year we had that reassessment, so our penny went from roughly 30,000 to 50,000, but that is because the assessment value went up so drastically, but our penny value dropped down significantly so that the county wasn't bringing in any revenue. It was just to level it out. So yes, the assessments went up, then our penny value went down to offset it so that the county was receiving the same amount.
So what is our penny now?
Penny now is about $50,000. Correct.
Yeah, it's been up.
As you can see right there, it's 50,773. It's in that little block towards the right bottom of the page, yeah.
Oh, all right. I
But,
ain't looked down that far yet.
and the assessment value, if you see at the top there, you know, we used to be assessment value of roughly 300 million and some, now we're a little over 500. Yeah. So that went up drastically. That being said, the penny allocations were similar. We didn't change anybody's allocations from what we did mid-year last year. Everybody pretty much got the same exact pennies, but everybody got a little bit more revenue because assessments have gone up a little bit since when we, any assessments that are done mid-year with the assessor's office, those keep hitting the books, and so we reevaluate. This was as of March. That's where these numbers are. Any questions on that, just to show you the values? Okay. And so just to speak before we get into school, I did want to talk about the other big revenue sources is our TVA, state revenue shares. They held pretty well, so this year we allocated, sales tax has also been up, so with the school, sales tax is up with them. So we basically, they had roughly a little over 100,000 increase in sales tax, so we bumped down the TVA on them about 100,000, so they stayed relatively the same in revenue. And then, with the TVA, we also bumped up, and we'll speak to that later, but the highway, if they do a 3% increase raise, they ask for basically almost an extra 50,000. So I moved the TVA funds up on them back, so it's more of a fixed amount, so they both have the money they need for those resources. And then next on the TCRS employer contribution rate, we were lucky this year. It stayed exactly the same, 10.25, which is what it was last year. And that holds for all the county employees, the highway employees, and then any employees in the school system that are non-certified. So not the teachers, they're set by a different rate, but any of your non-certified staff that has TCRS. So it stayed at 10.25. So that helped the budget as well. Any questions on either of those items, or if not, we can dive into the schools next.
Go ahead, hi Dave.
Do one of you want to speak to that?
Just some highlights of the budget. Number one, it was, approved by the school board in the last school board meeting. We're not asking for any new money. And, another highlight we're happy to be able to do is, the teachers will be putting, 3,500 per step with the, goal, we're mandated by next year to have starting teachers at 50. And we're hoping to be able to do that again next year, so our starting teachers will be right at 52. And the non-certified staff, we're gonna give them a 7% raise.
So other than that, the budget is just the standard budget we've given you the last few years.
You said non-certified is gonna get 7%?
7%.
I was gonna say they deserve it. Thank you, guys.
While looking through there, does anybody see anything they want to question?
Let me dig off in here.
Okay, just dive into it.
I like to dig off in it while I got them here.
It runs from page 3 to 15.
Most of these raises state funded.
We got an increase in TISA funding to offset the raise. So yeah, the majority of it is state funded. We had to pull some money around, but the bulk of it will be state. They are probably about 93%
State.
state.
They funded any school buses this time.
That's the 177 budget. Yeah, it's a little more money than it was last year, but it funds about 1.5 buses. Approximately. Unless they go up again.
We're waiting on the tariffs.
Yeah.
Those pay raises, that for Ms. Wallace's staff too.
Correct, yes. I was making sure this, I think I allowed for 5, but I was just checking to make sure I had enough in there to do 7, and I do.
Okay.
Any major expenses for capital improvements to the buildings?
We're gonna come back, hopefully, we hold everything steady as it is, and we'll probably come back and get fund balance for a roof project at Dover Elementary, but we shouldn't come to you for additional funding, that should be fund balance money.
Must be in pretty good shape. They kept bone quiet down there.
Now be quiet for a minute.
This may be off subject. What about school vouchers? How's that gonna affect you, or do you know?
Don't know right now. I mean, in the short term, I don't think it's going to affect us. I mean, we already have some children going to Clarksville Academy, places like that will probably be getting them, but we're not getting funding for those students anyway, so. But, I could see at some point if they change and allow credits for homeschool and things like that, I could see where it would have an impact.
Do you know how many homeschool students you have?
Approximately 200.
Yeah, a little over 200.
out of a total of what?
1,800, well,
We're at about
1,900.
1850 now.
1,900 was pre-K.
So we want,
We'll be over 2,000 if we had all, if there were no homes.
so we're
They all
maintaining,
posts.
so we don't change much, do we? As far as population?
We went down a little bit last year, but we've held right around 1,900 for a while.
You got all that figures in your head?
Yes, sir.
It's good.
I've got one question for Joe so far. What do y'all think about the state running education rather than the federal government? Is that gonna be better for the Stewart County system?
Depends on if the federal money, it depends on if the federal money still flows.
It's my understanding that the federal money's gonna go to the states and the state's gonna take care of education. Now, is that better for our education system?
If the funding that we're receiving in federal funds stays the same, the state doesn't take more of it.
And the state doesn't put extra hooks in the,
But as far as curriculum and, taking,
The
and,
state decides the curriculum now anyway, I mean, so, yeah. I can see some good things from it. You worry about the regulations for special needs students and things like that, that's concerning. To make sure that they still get the services that they need.
Those regulations will come from the state instead of federal government. then.
I think there would still be laws, that federal law is still there, whether there's a Department of Education or not, the way I interpret it.
my understanding is too, that some of it's still gonna come from the federal government, it's not gonna come from the Department of Education, it's gonna come from other departments. They're gonna shift things that education was responsible for to other agencies.
We actually don't know, man.
No,
Okay.
the answer is,
Yeah,
I'm
until-
not sure.
Until you see what they actually do, you know, you can't really speak to it.
Right. Until it happens. Okay.
They make motions.
I have a motion and a second to approve the school budget. Are there any questions on the school budget? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. All opposed? Like. And let's see, capital project. Next is the highway. Isn't it? That was cafeteria, okay. Thank you, fellas, for coming.
Thank you.
Ours is pretty much the same as last year. The only thing pretty much different is the 3% COLA raise.
is what?
The 3% raise, cost of living.
You're not asking for any equipment this time, Ron? Oh, that is, I'm sorry.
It's not in this current year though, that's just an updated 10-year. So next year will
Next
be.
year, he didn't have anything this year, that's the next year, he's got a 10-year plan.
You're gonna get raises like you typically do.
3%.
What are we offering over here at the moment?
3% total.
Three?
Got any questions on this one?
Motion approved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, likewise. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Charitable contributions.
And I'll start in the county County General Fund 101. Page 23, this is the recommendations that came out of the nonprofit committee that met. As you can see in that third column is the amounts that were approved by the nonprofit committee. So this takes the total, in 24-25 right now, we're at roughly 246, so it was a little bit of an increase of around $40,000. You can see the differences there. The very far column out to the right, it shows you the increases. There were a couple decreases from ones that were more one-time. You had two in there, the museum and the ag that was only in 24-25, will not be in 25-26 again. So those are the ones that are negative.
Anybody got any questions on those?
We have to check the commerce, I know there's been some controversy about that one, so they requested 20 and we're getting 10, is that right?
Well, they have a couple different buckets. So like their normal operational funding, they asked for 10 and 10 was approved versus the 7,900 that have been approved in this current fiscal year. But then from the hotel motel tax, they were asking for the full 26, and the nonprofit committee just recommended to hold them at 18,000, which had been not this current year, but a prior year amount. And then we also give them it's a little confusing, at the very bottom there, that's specific money for the fair board use. The money flows through them because it would be very difficult for the county to get in with all your food vendors, your agriculture, all those things. So they just sort of manage that pot of money, and it's only gonna be $10,000 for the fair this year.
Question. On fire and rescue, they're asking for another 25,000?
Yes, sir.
That's on top of the 39,000 we just give them?
Yeah, 39 would just be a one-time in this year. Next year's operating fund, they would be requesting 125 versus what they got this year, which was 100,000. But yes, we
They
did
got
just approve.
139.
Correct, yes.
We're playing catch up.
Got it timed pretty good, I'll say that.
Do we know why the increase of 7,000 for the athletic association?
I actually asked for that so that I didn't have to have county maintenance, which we're behind them right now, go down there and try to keep up with the new walking trail. And, the athletic association said that, well, Mr. Danny Lee is the one that's taking care of it. And I asked them about how many hours did they think, and we did the math, and it come up to about $7,000
So it's for
to
county
take care of the
maintenance.
county part of it. Yeah, he does a good job. I don't know if y'all been by. but
Yeah, he
things looking good.
He works in there all the time.
Hey, he does an awesome job.
Yeah, he does.
Awesome.
Well, I don't see a problem with that, I was just like, all the work that's being done right there.
Yeah,
But if that's what it's for, then that's.
yeah.
So
They're getting his wife for free, cause I seen her down there the other day working too.
that's a $7,000 increase.
Yeah, that was the increase in that. I actually went to them and asked them, would he do it?
Well, it's never looked better on anybody, he may look better than anybody that's ever been down there.
Okay, we have any more questions on this?
That's what we're doing now.
Okay, yeah. We've never run out of spots online.
Just hold on.
Okay, well, let me ask you this, Heather, are you comfortable with it? I mean, $40,000 extra this year is a lot that's a lot of funds.
I'm comfortable with it. I mean, I don't like to get into who needs what, but 40,000, I mean, the county can take it on if that's what, for our fund balance right now, I'm comfortable with taking that additional amount.
It's still less than it was 2 years ago when we cut it 60,000 last year.
Most of these things are things inside the county anyway, aren't they?
What's that?
Most of this goes to people inside the county anyway.
I know when the question been asked, or I don't know if anybody ever answered it, what effect is TVA gonna have on us up here as far as tax base? And when they go over these turbines or whatever, do you have any idea what, if we're gonna have a lot of change in our tax base or?
You're talking about the state revenue funds, like the 3.2
TVA,
million?
the
that we-
TVA fund,
Yeah, the TVA, I mean, unless, the state is the one that dictates how the money is allocated. It's their formula. You can read it about it in what's called the TACIR report. And basically it's based on 3 factors. It's based on your your population, your acreage in the county, and then how much is TVA acreage. So it's really not, I mean, the sales of TVA is through TVA across the board. It's not just based on what Cumberland City is. So, I mean, anytime sales goes up or down, or, you know, their revenue goes up or down for TVA, that's gonna affect everybody. I mean, TVA, I think, stretches across 7 different states. But, for the state of Tennessee, unless they change that formula, we're paid a very high amount simply because we have a lot of TVA acreage. So what would hurt us if we lost TVA acreage? So if TVA for some reason sold that land, then that is what would affect us.
When you're looking at acreage and what you're doing?
Yes.
It's one part of the trail, it's a triangle, it's, all 3 of them go into a pot, and that's how we get our number. Speaking of TVA and going to a couple of their meetings, our tax base shouldn't change a lot. Now, where we lose is the families that are having these really good paying jobs right now. That's where we lose as a county, but.
Economy factor, yeah, but as far as their money they have to pay us,
That's
unless they
why
sell that,
Your money,
yeah,
our
it's gonna
money
stay the
coming
same.
in.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah.
Most of them, at the meetings that I've been in attendance to, seems to think it'll be inching up because the power that they're putting out now is more. And that,
I heard they were gonna put some solar where they're tearing the building down.
I don't know.
I don't have a clue, that's what's coming from people that decide to plant.
Well, it ain't concern of making the revenue. I mean, it may be different in our budget, you know, our tax base, you know. If we got cut in, is what I meant there.
It's one of our largest revenue sources, you're
Yeah.
absolutely right, yeah.
I got a question, but I don't think there's anybody here from nonprofits. Who's on the nonprofit? Anybody here? Have all these nonprofits that keep coming year after year, I keep getting a song and a dance, but I ain't seen nothing yet on these. They're supposed to be giving us a report every year.
They do.
All of them do.
They do, correct.
Oh,
All of them
yeah,
do.
they do. We won't release their money. They have to file with the county clerk's office, so when they go to request the money that was approved in the given fiscal year, we have them send us a letter, we have us send them their financial reports, and then we'll, like Jamie in my office will confirm with Natalie in the county clerk's office that it's on file there. Natalie will actually send her back a stamp signed off to show, yes, it is filed in her office.
But all of them are doing what they're
Correct.
supposed to be doing.
The only one that did not was the Chamber of Commerce last year. They didn't have a director, they fired their bookkeeper, and it didn't get in on time. That's the only one.
But they haven't received any further funds since they
No,
haven't
they
made
haven't
the,
received any more funds
Yeah.
yet. Now this year, when they come in to ask for their funds,
They're gonna have
they're gonna have to provide us with financials. But since I've been here, that's the only one I can think of. And I've got all of the animal, I get a quarterly report every quarter on, the finances of the Humane Society and all the.
So if I wanted to look at them, I'd come to you and you're gonna prove it.
I got you a file. You can look at
All
every.
right.
and when we put the agenda together, Commissioner Teber, for the nonprofit, we put a copy of all the most recent financials, and they're all gonna be different because they all have different they're different fiscal years. But I can get you a copy of that too, so that's sort of a nice little summary. It's a good, like, what, 50 pages or so. But it's got everybody's in there. That's the most recent one that they filed for when we release the funds.
Do they show a statement of where they spent the money and all that?
They're required by it's just a general financial report. It's basically like an income statement. They're gonna show you their revenues, their incoming revenues, and they're gonna show you their outgoing, expenditures. Some are very short and sweet because they're just not very big. They don't have, and then your bigger guys like Progressive or Highland, they have huge, some of these have CPAs that are doing their financial reports, so they could be, 20, 30 pages, so.
I asked about this because, maybe, I don't know how the rest of y'all, but I get a lot of questions about accountability on this over the amount, on nonprofits. Who's holding their feet to the fire and what they're doing. So, with that being said, I'm trying to hold the feet to the fire.
Motion to approve, no problem.
I have a motion to approve. Second. Do the second. Any more questions about it?
I'm rigging.
All in favor, say aye. All opposed, likewise.
Okay, before I get into the detail, the wage increase, as you heard from, Ronnie, they do not have, he didn't say this, but they don't have a step raise, so they're just doing a flat 3%. So for our employees, last year, if you recall, we moved everybody who was a full-time employee, because they're the only ones that get step raises, to a flat 2%. Except for EMS and the sheriff's office, they had a little bit of a different step system. So this year, both EMS and the sheriff just said, can we do a flat 2% as well? So I looked at everybody and put a flat 2% on all full-time employees. That's what is in the budget, starting on page 24. And then what we did is looked at what we could do percentage-wise to stay relatively the same deficit as what we had last year, being just under $500,000. We looked at it and we said we could do an extra 1% for all full-time employees, and then we would give all part-time employees 3%. So basically, everybody across the board would at least get 3%. Keep in mind, the officials, their raise this year was 3%. The COLA for the general sessions judge was 2.9, so basically 3%. So we tried to just stay the same with everybody. If we want to do more of a cost of living increase, more than just an additional 1% for full-time,
What does 1% cost?
$60,000, that was what it meant, yeah. So, you know, we can certainly look to do that, but we just try to keep everybody at the flat 3%, to keep the budget basically the same as where we said it was last year, with not going more than $500,000 as a deficit. So
So
that's
on top of it, they get 3% plus the longevity.
and they do get longevity pay, correct. Full-time employees only get longevity, yeah.
And 1% is 60,000.
1% for, yeah, everybody would be 60,000 in my budget. For the highway, I think it's roughly 20,000 more.
It is steps.
Yeah, so I mean, basically if you're a full-time employee, you're getting your 2% step plus another 1%. If you're part-time, you're getting 3% flat. If you're highway, you're getting 3% flat.
When we looked at it, not to get too far off from the weeds, but it was just hard because the sheriff's office, like, their step is really spread out. It goes from 1 year to 10 years or 5 years or something. And then with EMS, of course, you know, they work all of that overtime. So if you was to give them a 2% and then a 3%, you'd be looking at something completely different. So Heather and I said, in fairness, with the money that we got, we felt like 3% across the board. Whether you call it a step or whether you call it a cost of living, you get 3%.
That's already figured in.
Yes, it figured in here where everybody who's an employee gets at least 3%. So with that being said, basically, I mean, I'll just run through. We had not on wood here, but really there were no departments that really came. There was a couple little things I'll mention at the end. But pretty much most of our departments and officials kept their budgets relatively the same. Nobody had any big requests. There were no additional capital. The sheriff's office and the EMS is going to just stick with the plan we came up with last year, where they're using those pennies allocated in the capital projects funds. That's been working really well. They get just a little bit over 100,000 each, and they can purchase what they need for capital there. Like I said, the big revenue changers, property tax affects the Fund 101 the most, so we got a little bit more there. I did increase TVA pretty significantly, so we bumped that up to offset a lot of those raises. Keep in mind, when I say 60,000, your officials is another 50,000 on a 3% rate. So the officials is a big chunk because you're talking your higher end employees. So that is a mandated raise that is in here. The other big changes, we were able to move patient charges up a little bit. We've been seeing an increase in the EMS collections of patient charges. Sales tax was up a little bit. Another big increase for revenue was investment income. We'll bump that all the way. If you've seen me all year long, Mr. Teeper, you've asked, offset budget amendments with investment income. So I've taken that up to $420,000 for next year. But that being said, if you look through, the revenues comes in just a little over $13 million. And then on expenditures, the one thing in here besides the 3% for commissioners, and Commissioner Mathis just brought something to my attention right before the meeting, but I do have in here, if you look on page 27 on row 228, I know that no commissioner is going to sit here and ask for a raise for themselves, but I'm going to say it publicly, commissioners only make $180 a month. If you look at statewide, that rate of pay is significantly lower than what most counties do. I understand their bigger counties are gonna make a bigger increase, but my thought was, could we at least change that instead of getting paid $185? If we give you a 3% increase, you're going from, you know, $185 to $190, so you're getting an extra $60 a year. So I was looking at it and I said, you know, to me, it's been well overdue. I've been here a long time and I've never seen a pretty significant commissioner. I just thought maybe we could try to do $300 a month. I know that's still not a lot, but at least it's something. So that would be a $20,000 increase. So that is what I was proposing in this budget, that we try to do something for the commissioners, and the mayor and I both talked on that. We both agreed. However, there is something in the TCA code, and I need to look into it further, that says technically we're not supposed to raise you all until after we adopt by resolution, which is what we've done in the past and which is what we'd have to do, but you'd have to wait till the first of the month, I think, after the election year. So I will have to look into that and I'll have to come back to that, but I did want to try to give you all, because I can sit here and speak. I know a lot of people don't understand, or maybe they think you only come to meetings, you all know it, but a commissioner is required to be part of numerous committees and go to all these committees, plus you're getting calls, you're getting people stopping you in the grocery store. There's a lot involved, and I just think it's well worth more than $180 a month. That's my personal.
Well, most of mine goes in gas.
And that too, you're having to travel here.
I will
So,
say, most of the commissioners are not in it for the money.
I know.
If it was, it wouldn't be nobody here.
Yes, sir.
I know.
So,
For $180.
really, you're not in it for the money. You're not in it for the money. And really, most all commissioner ain't asked for anything.
And then I was, you know, the
Yeah.
mayor and I were talking, like, you guys are never gonna ask for it, so I just thought, let me at least propose it, but it's just something to think about. We don't have to put it in this year. I guess we wouldn't be able to do it since there's not an election until fall of '26. It wouldn't be able to be until, but, it's something to consider. Try to increase it a little bit.
Eric, I know we don't pay school budget, I know you nearly 7%. Are you having trouble keeping bus drivers and stuff? Are you having trouble?
Right now, no. They've got a really good boss.
Yeah, I think you don't tell me, you know,
No, I'm gonna take it. We have been really blessed. We have not had the problem that other counties have had.
We've got a good bunch right now too.
For the most part, you know,
There's one or two, but
there's one or two that
Their
Mr.
boss,
Mr. Tabor has to keep straight.
their boss could be a little bit better.
They couldn't be. Everybody could be. Heather, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Last year at budget time, when we did the budget, we were in the hole how much? How much were
When we
our
approved
deficit?
it?
Our
Our
deficit.
deficit was 460,000.
Okay.
Well, how much we make on our rent money?
About 420,000 right now is what we're budgeting. Yeah. And that was a big, so you're
Well,
asking why it's
I'm
changed?
I'm just looking at what you
Yes,
got
when we-
estimated.
When we started, so he's looking at page 42, correct?
I am.
Okay, so page 42, the second column, when we created the budget and approved the budget last year, the deficit was, looking at a negative 465,000, I think it was off the top of my head. Now I'm saying it's already positive. I go through and I start updating. I don't just put what is in the original budget in the middle column. I go ahead and start making changes for what I know the revenues are increasing. So investment income was up. We got a much larger TVA payment. Sales tax has been up a little bit for me. maybe an extra
Investigate that,
25,000 there,
Reagan.
but the other thing too, though, you need to understand the reason that's also showing positive is we have a lot of that. Like if you look at the third column, the 5.8 million, 2 million of that is sitting in reserves. I've got all the opiate money, the TVA impact came in this year. That was almost $1 million alone. So that's almost gonna flip you from negative to the positive. But that money, we're using it for specific things. So we have almost $2.5 million in reserves.
I guess what I'm trying to say is that you budget very conservatively.
Correct.
Now, how much earned interest you know we had?
It's a little over 400,000 right now, yeah. That's trustee's office, they're investing all the money. That's not just our money, they're investing all the cash that's coming in from the school system, the highway, and the county funds, and she's investing all that in CDs and some longer term to get better interest rates, that kind of thing.
And we dipped in there a little bit, right? Earned interest.
Yes.
We use something.
Yeah, every meeting I use it, yeah.
Yeah, we sort of dipped into that, yeah.
We have, yeah.
Cause it's a new, we never used
We
to get
used that
it.
instead of having
Yeah.
to raise taxes.
Right.
For the longest time, I think I'm about till 2-3 years ago, the county general fund, because a certain allocation goes straight to the school system, and then after that, the county will get it. Well, for 10+ years, the county never got a penny, because we didn't have any interest income. When interest rates started going up, then all of a sudden it flipped, and now we're getting a pretty significant amount. Plus, the fund balances have all been up. I mean, not just mine, if you look at the school system, they've got roughly $6 million cash right now. The highway is up, 500% in the last 10 years. So we're all up in fund balances, so there's a lot more for the trustee to invest as well.
Thank God we are.
Yeah,
So you got roughly 4 million then that's not tied to something.
correct. So, not to flip, but I mean, basically, and I can certainly go through any of the individual departments, but like I said, there's just those raises we talked about, and then many of the departments had little increases for things, supplies. We're seeing inflation across the board, so there were different increases there. There were some decreases. We saw a huge decrease in communication. We've been working very hard, the mayor and the IT director, and we've seen a pretty big, almost every communication line in this budget is down from what it was in the prior year. So we are trying to get some things, and there's been, the sheriff's office has looked through some different, but the jail has canceled a couple different contracts, so we've seen some savings there as well. So across the board, I mean, all the departments and officials, they're very conservative. They do the best job they can to try to work with the budget they have.
Overall, I know we're jumping around here, that's okay. What about FEMA money? Have we got any, Ronnie, any help with FEMA or anything?
FEMA, we still haven't seen a penny from FEMA money that we were expected on the COVID, and that's been since 2020, so you're talking 5 years. Michelle in my office has appealed. I mean, we're only asking, at this point, they've denied certain things, it's only left around maybe 50,000 that we could get, and I think she has appealed maybe 6-7 times trying to get the money. As far as the county general, we don't see FEMA very easily. Ronnie saw a little bit on, what was the natural disaster, maybe a year or two ago. He got a little money off of that.
We just met with FEMA last week. We had the preliminary damage assessment for these last rounds of storms. Ronnie, I think you had a little over 200,000, right?
Yeah, he has better luck.
Yeah, I've been dealing with FEMA for 30 years.
It ain't getting nothing, right?
Well, actually, they've been pretty good to us.
Oh, have it?
Yeah. And I put in this time, it was 180 something, a little less than 200,000.
For the last one.
No, not this one, it was the one before.
So it hasn't been declared yet, but, all the thresholds have been met. Our local threshold's been met, the state threshold's been met. So I think it's just a matter of a few days here, and then we'll actually be officially declared. And when he gets his money, it'll still be a while, I'm sure.
But you did get your money, the 180 is what you're saying. You received those funds from the storm that was a couple years back.
Yes.
Yes, so I mean, at least he's getting success.
I hope we get this one too.
Oh, yeah.
You do.
Oh,
Are you and the mayor both happy with this budget?
I am. I mean, you always want to do more for the employees, but I mean, I've talked about that on page 43. These are the things that are not in there that I just need to make sure everybody's aware of. One, the election commission asked, and this is because this election commission board, they wanted to put an additional $26,000 into their budget for a potential May 26th primary election. My thought was, if it's a potential, we can amend for it. There's no need to put it in the budget, and then we may not have it, and then it gets, confused in the numbers. So we did not include that. On the library, we have to have a maintenance of effort on the library, so I have one line item, which is an insurance line item, that's roughly $20,000 to start. I know that is going to be significantly less, but we cannot lower it down to what it is going to be because of maintenance of effort. So we gave the library, as far as in this budget, everything is there that they asked for, but I went ahead and decreased roughly $7,500 in that insurance line item. So the maintenance of efforts there's no need to go up in maintenance of effort when I know that line item is not going to be what it says it's going to be. But I can't take it down to zero. They will not allow me. The state rejected us once before when we tried it, so. And then the sheriff's office had 2 requests that aren't in there. Specifically, he would like to, if you'd approve, $1,500 more for a 50-cent hour for Officer Robbie McDonald. He is in a lieutenant role now, but he's still being paid a sergeant step rate because there was no step rate for lieutenant. So if we were to do that, that would be an extra $1,500. And then the jail requested, there's 3 step A personnel that they would like to move to step B because he needs to train more people for the FTO personnel. So that would be roughly $5,000.
What is FTO?
Field training.
Field training, thank you.
Field training officer.
officers, yes. Some of his step B personnel are FTOs, and that was the main reason he needed more FTOs, he said. So those 2 items, if we want to add it back, that would be $6,500. And then Commissioner Watkins already brought it up, but it's roughly $60,000 if we want to try to do more than that additional 1% for the full-time employees. So if you want to, I mean, the first 2, certainly if you want to add those in, but it's really the second 2 that are, the 3rd and 4th item, the sheriff's office and the jail, that would be the ones we need to address if we want to try to include that or not. And those were really the only specific payroll. I didn't have any other specific payroll requests. Everybody else just said they wanted the step and they would like to see as much COLA as possible.
But now all your officials are not asking for any, now.
No, they all wanted it at least 2%. A lot of them with their part-time, they said if we weren't gonna do some kind of COLA for their part-time, they wanted to come and speak to it, or if we weren't gonna do something on top of the additional 2% step raise, but we're doing at least that, so. And that's just Fund 101. I can get into the others, but I don't want to address Fund 101 or come back to it. I can briefly mention the other 3 funds.
We'll come back.
Okay, so on page 44 and 45, this is the drug control fund. No real changes here. Sheriff's Office has brought a lot of money in revenues into drug control fund. We've done some amendments this year where they've been able to purchase some more capital needs. So we're basically budgeting for revenue of around $41,000 and expenditures for right around $70,000. That still leaves him with a fund balance of $20,000 at the end of the year. And page 40, any questions on 122? On page 46, that is that ARPA, it was originally ARPA-free revenue amount, the special revenue fund. We're just trying to spend this down. The only money that's really left after this year is the interest that accrued in that account, so we'll be looking to spend that down. I just basically put roughly spending down $40,000, and my goal is to actually spend it down completely next year, but we need to see what we have projects the mayor's got going, and we'll come back to you when we have that.
To spend it in?
Well, we want to close this account, this fund out. This fund was only open while we had the COVID money, so.
We don't have a problem spending down anything.
Well, I don't have a specific request right now, but no, the goal is, I mean, audit wants us to close this fund out, so we'll be closing it out hopefully within this next year or two. And the next fund is the debt service fund. So on page, I always show you pages 47, 48. 47 just sort of shows you, I know it always makes Commissioner Deutsch over there happy to see that amount. Right now, the totals, as of starting with 25-26, we've only got $13 million left in debt. That's down from roughly $33 million 10 years ago. So we paid down roughly $20 million in the debt.
Amen, good deal.
And you can see on the far column to the right, that's when we see debt roll off. So for example, 2930 is when you're gonna see almost $1 million, that 830,000 rolls off. So we'll see another huge decrease. We had one of those just prior year. So that just sort of shows you until it gets down to nothing. And the only debt we've added in recent years is the EESI loans, those ones through the school, and those are at interest rates of 0.5 and 0.75. So I mean, they're basically almost free money. So, and that's, the school's been doing all those different capital projects with those funds.
Well, that page sure looks a lot better than it had been looking.
Sure does.
On page 48, that just is a snapshot of the Debt payments by fund, that's just another one I show every year. So as you can see, the total debt service this coming year is just over 1.7 million. And then if you look at the fund balance for page 49 and 50, we basically now have the pennies in the fund balance that just whatever's coming in is going out. So the revenues and the expenditures pretty much just net with each other. So we're left with that fund balance of 3.8 million. Any questions on the debt service? And then pages 51 and 52, this is the General Capital Projects Fund. This fund mainly has two big areas. It has the litigation tax that comes in. That is seen on row 19. It's only about 25,000, but we had reserve money that's sitting in there too, a little bit left. That money from litigation tax can only be used on the courthouse or the jail. So every year we try to allocate a little bit to each of those buildings. And then the other big thing is the property tax. If you remember last year, we basically planted some of the extra pennies. We've got 6 extra pennies sitting in this account now, with the penny being 50,000, that is sitting in that account basically to try to build that up for future capital needs, like what Mr. Ronnie Sumner brought, that he'll have a 300,000 request next year, those types of things. But what we did last year, and we're going to keep it the same, is we're given roughly 110,000 to both the EMS and the Sheriff's Office for them to use for capital needs. So we took some of those pennies and split it, and then they're both using those for the vehicles and different capital needs that they need. And I think it worked pretty well. That was the mayor's suggestion last year, and it seemed to work well this year. So that fund balance will still end up with almost 900,000 for next year. That would be it for me, unless there's questions.
Didn't you know there's gonna be?
I'm sure.
So you figured
You
out.
fire away.
I'm fixing on it, both barrels. You figured this with the 3% across the board.
Correct.
What would that be without it? Just
3% is roughly 180,000.
180.
Because it's 60,000 for each percent, roughly. Now, you still have to give the 3% on the elected officials. That's outside. That's another 50.
Right.
Yeah, that's mandated.
That's all they got. Surprised.
Got a question?
He's got one. I can tell by looking at it.
Let's go back to page 43. I know we want to delve into those. I guess my question is the $1,500 and the $5,000. Can those not already be absorbed in his current budget by making transfers?
With other personnel? No, because he's budgeting for all personnel he has right now, because he's full staff right now. I mean, he's got, for correctional officers, I mean, unless you were to reduce the personnel, but for correctional officers, you have 29 correctional officers plus the jail administrator. And then on the sheriff's side, he's got 2 clerical people in the office, himself, the chief, and he's got 22 deputy officers, and then he's got some part-time personnel. You could potentially move part-time. That would be the only variable I would see that, you know, but I wouldn't want to speak for him. He would have to say if he could or not.
So what is the benefit of moving the step A personnel to step B? Why are we doing 3 of those? Why is that requested?
Sheriff, do you want to speak to that?
Frank?
Sorry, Dan.
They were asking on the jail, the 3-step A to 3-step B, that Sam wanted to propose. One of the commissioners was asking, could you give a little more detail on that, like why you want to do that exactly, or what's the need?
On the 3 steps?
Yeah, for the jail, Sam wants to move 3-step A personnel to step B, because he needs more FTO personnel, and they're paid under step B once they're FTO personnel. So Rick, I think, was asking if you could just give a little more understanding for them for that one.
I don't understand what you're
Rick,
asking.
asking
The
that.
jail's asking for a $5,000 increase for
moving
moving
to
to 3,
FTOs?
yes, to move into 3 to FTOs. commissioners want to know, why is that?
What the purpose
What the
is.
purpose
Why,
of
why
that
do you need
is.
more LPOs, I guess?
Yeah, and with less housing inmates now, why does he need?
Well,
More
we
money.
still need the training officers, the FCOs to train the people that we're getting. It's not,
So what you want to do is move them to a different pay grade?
yes. Yes, and we still need the FTOs, because they're the ones gonna be doing the training for people. And you gotta remember this, the jail, we do have a lot of turnover there, a lot of them, so we get the people, I mean, that's just a fact of it, we do have a lot on the turn, because it's not those serious jobs.
After we get them trained, they go somewhere else.
I'm sorry?
After we get them trained, they go somewhere else.
You know, that is true a lot, but a lot of them get started and they just don't like the jail system and they leave. I don't think we don't lose near as many to other jails on as far as correctional as we do patrol officers to other places. But we still have to train them up when we lose them. We still have to train somebody. And it takes
You have a hard time getting people to do that job.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, we are getting, with the pay increase that we had the last time, we are getting a lot better quality, and the turnover is not quite bad, especially on the patrol. We've attracted some really good, I'm really happy with the patrol. We've got a couple guys that came from Clarksville.
I was gonna say, I met one of them the other day, he was top notch, lived down in his area.
But, yes.
But we won't hold that against him.
But yes, on the field training, that's what it is.
Not advocating.
We still gotta maintain them.
Sorry, not advocating for or against. Could Sam just take the 5,000 away from his part-time
He
line
doesn't have
item?
part-time, sheriff does. Jail doesn't have any part-time. If they'd have to pull from the sheriff budget, that would be the question to see.
Yeah, I don't think, we don't have any corrections that have any part-time.
Yeah, there's no
Well,
corrections.
but I was talking about pulling from
The sheriff
the sheriff
part-time.
line item. You could do a line item transfer from the sheriff's office because of the amount
Which, it
of.
depends on which part-time you wanna pull it from.
Yeah, he's saying, could you pull some part-time? So there's no part-time in the jail, so you would have to pull part-time money from the sheriff's office, which is mainly your courthouse security officers, a little bit of administrative you have.
I mean, yeah, you could pull it from the court security, but when we run out of money to pay them, if we do, I mean, I gotta have them for court. That's the only problem. And the only other.
You're mandated for that, aren't you?
Yeah, so well, the judges.
Yeah.
Two of the three judges will not start court, they won't start court without, got two officers.
Yeah, and I'm not necessarily advocating for either
Right.
way. I'm just asking how can we come up with 5,000? Because the fact of the matter is our revenues, after looking at it, in the jail dropped 100,000 this year. So,
Well,
you
and
know,
that's the reason is because we were asking for some more people, a couple people, because we were housing more inmates and,
So has your population been down?
Yeah,
It's
the
down.
consensus was, let's just don't house as many people, and we haven't been, and we lost that revenue.
but the amount of recommended employees was based off of 90? Is that what I looked up? 90 in
think
the
it was-
jail.
yeah. I mean,
And
80
then
is
we're
the
running
again,
70,
but it
so
was
I mean,
higher.
that's what I was saying. I
Yeah.
wonder how we can, how can we, it's just.
Well, here's another thing you gotta remember, we have to have a minimum number to run the jail, a minimum number, if we're running 70 employees, 70 or 90, we gotta have a minimum number, and the more inmates we get, we have to have more numbers, because they require so many inmates, so many correction officers. And we're at that level, and when we increase that level, like we were doing, we needed more correctional officers. So when we decreased our population, we didn't have to hire any more correctional officers to do the job. But, I don't know about pulling 5,000. We could pull it from the part-time, but,
I mean, my only thought is, just throw this out there, is if you all were wanting to maybe do, you could pull it with the understanding that if down the road, because the courthouse security is based a lot on court. You know, if the judges are scheduled more courts with general sessions and circuit, which they had there for a lot this current year, then he's gonna need more. But if you pulled it down with the understanding that if you did have more court, that you're gonna have to come back and then increase
And
in
ask
that
for
line
it.
item.
And here's the other thing, we've got, and I try to look ahead 6 months, and we've got a slew of criminal trials that's lined up to go that in the next few months, and it's actually gonna be after July, as we know in advance. And I mean, there's a lot of trials that they got set for, and if they try these cases, there's gonna be several days where we've got officers there, you know, every day. I mean, a lot of them, and we run into that. We have no control over how they set the cases or how long the trials are gonna be. And that's why we could do that, but if we do that.
It's a variable number right now, like he's saying, because he's
We
trying
could
to
take the
base.
5,000 out of the part-time, if that's what y'all want to do, but then we'd have to come back and, might have to come back later on and say, you know, here's like we're looking at, and I'm not opposed to that, if y'all just know up front that we may have to come back and ask for the, you know, for some of the money to pay, part-time, help. And I don't like it any more than y'all do, but, and we obviously can't pull any from the security if you want to keep security there at the door. But,
Yeah, it would come out of your other, because there's
Yeah.
one line item is just for the 2 securities at the door, that's the one with the 80 next to it, and then the other one is, that's a variable number, he's basing it off of what he thinks will be the number of hours that they work by their rate.
What's it show?
and then,
For current year, we're running a little lower, a little under what it is
Why
current.
don't we swap?
okay,
Take that 5 from current or whatever you've got there, and if you need more, come back, you're gonna get it.
I'm fine with that.
You okay with that?
I'm fine with that.
That's just my
I'm
suggestion.
fine with that, just know that it may, you know, and maybe something happens where we won't have that, and, but
And they'll settle.
may have to. I mean,
And there might be something open up to where we can help with that too. There's some avenues coming in money-wise, I mean, as early as today that we can.
And the only other part-time is Kenny, who serves
Yes.
the civil process and everything, and he keeps that, I mean, that's almost like having another deputy, because he comes in like a day or a day and a half a week, and he serves a lot of papers, a lot of civil process paper. He comes on in weekend and late at night.
He works on Saturday most of the time.
He does, he works on Saturdays to catch those people, but I'm fine with taking the 5,000 out, just knowing, say, hey, we gotta have a little bit more. Maybe we come back and if, might not need 1,000 or 2,500, I don't know, and I'm fine with that, just knowing that that's something.
I say if you came back and needed it, you'll get it.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. That's just a projection, and I think we're gonna have a lot of trials that are coming up that are set, and
Hopefully, we won't have to even worry about that. Hopefully, the money will be in there, because if you lose an employee for 2 months, you know, if you can't find one, then you're gonna have that extra revenue in there.
we
And,
could do that.
I mean, y'all have been at full staff. I mean, it's been a pretty good while now.
Yeah,
so-
I think we're down, as far as the patrol side, we're pretty good on that side. We haven't lost anybody for a while, so we're pretty good. We are down in corrections. We had one that passed away, and I don't think we've replaced her yet. And, so and we could make a little bit of backup out of the salaries, a little bit by not hiring, but, that's the only other place, that's only 2 places I know that we could do
I'm
it.
definitely not advocating for cutting the courthouse security.
Right, and I know you're not, I'm, it's just the court officers, and I'll be honest with you, most of the time when we got court, we got at least 1 officer in court, 1 deputy, but the judges don't wanna start court unless you got 2 court officers there, and over at the juvenile court.
I don't blame
Well, over the juvenile court, you really have to have at least 1 officer in the court and 1 man in the door there at the juvenile court. And see, sometimes we'll have trial court or going on, and we'll have juvenile court or general sessions going on at the same time, which is having 4 or 5 officers part-time over there. So that's what we run into.
What about the $1,500 for Robbie?
I asked that for that last year, and I didn't get it, but I went ahead and I needed a lieutenant, I needed that rank, and Robbie does everything, he does well as worth it. And sometimes I'm paying him overtime to do certain things, that I might not be able to pay him if he, by classifying maybe as admin. But he does a lot, he oversees everything, and I needed a lieutenant, and really, he needs to be paid more than the 50-cent raise, but, I think he's fine with that, and if he gets the 5% like we proposed, 50 cents is not that much, so. But I need to differentiate him from him and the sergeant's pay. And it's 50 cents, and that's what I was asking for.
Are you able to get your patrol cars like you want them? Are you having trouble getting them?
No, not really, and I guess we're still getting pennies on the dollars from them. I think the mayor talked about, and we tried to put some of these other money, we selling these old patrol cars back in, but the problem, getting the cars, is, since we went to Dodge, is not the problem. The problem is getting them outfitted. We got 2 in November, I think it was November, and they said they would get them outfitted in maybe March, and then it was April, and now it's May. So what we've done, we went to First Choice, and they're going to outfit them for us, and for pretty much the same price. So, and they're working on them right now. So we've had 2 cars that brand new, and I hadn't been able to use them in 5 months because they can't get them.
They on mark.
And usually, and that's why when they don't have lights, radios, or anything in them. Anything in them. But yeah, to answer your question, yeah, we went to Dodges. We can get them. We can get the cars. Just getting them outfitted, and that's a problem. And our fleets go. We're pretty much deadline and got rid of all of the Crown Vics. I got a couple more to sell, and we've got some of the old Explorers that have blown engines and things like that, and got those to sell too. And we also have some more. I've got a few more vehicles left. Got 3 right now on GovDeals.com for for falling the drug fund. They'll come back for drug money, and I've got a couple more to sell. So we sold a lot with the drug fund, and we've used that to outfit a lot of cars and stuff too, to add to that. So, but on the lieutenant's pay, I know that's an increase, and it's an increase in manpower and maintenance effort, but I really need that 50 cents for him. I don't think that's asking a whole lot because for him to be in charge of training and K9 and everything that he does, he's well worth it, and over the drugs too. So
I'm gonna make a motion to add that $1,500.
I'll second that.
You've heard a motion and a second to add 1,500 to revenue pay. Any questions on it? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, likewise.
thank you. And I apologize, they're texting me about, I've got something that's going on right now involving some drugs deal, and when it comes out, but that's what they're texting me about now.
We got to go back to 111, approve that.
So-
Read the money, didn't you?
No, but just to clarify, on 101s, we're gonna add in the 1,500, we're going to, the 5,000 is gonna be a wash, because I'm gonna reduce the part-time to offset it. On the commission pay, we'll just reduce that back down to the normal 3 and I'll look into it more for next year, since we think it's gotta be after a commission year anyway. Is that okay with everyone? We'll just take that back down to the normal. So that'll actually add an extra 20K back to the budget.
We have a motion to approve Fund 101.
Motion.
Second. Any questions on it? You know what's gonna happen? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? That's it. We gotta go to drug debt service.
You wanna do the rest, drug fund?
I want the drug and the other general government and the debt service and the capital projects all together. Give a motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, like place. Are there any other discussions come before this?
Thank y'all.
I appreciate everybody's work on this budget, I'll say that, this has been one of the smoothest I've sat through. I appreciate everybody actually appreciate it.
Well, I was gonna say, in 26 years, it's about as easy as I've ever seen either.
Well, and I thank all the department heads, cause they, you know, they really came in and worked with us this year, so.
My question always is Heather okay with it? If she's okay with it, then I can breathe a little easier.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion second.
Stand adjourned.
Thank you, guys.